Welcome back, America. We're here with America's governor, Governor Ron DeSantis. Governor DeSantis, is Joe Biden at war with working class Americans, with the middle class in this country?
100%. I mean, think about when he came into office, what did he do? He went on an unprecedented spending spree that has sparked the worst inflation we've seen in the last 40 years. People's grocery bills have gone up 50, 60, 70, 100% since he's been president. Their wages have not gone up that much. He also came in and tried to force COVID vax mandates on people, threatening truck drivers with losing their job and other blue-collar people. He's allowed the open border, which is bringing in people that are working in some of these states illegally. That is depressing wages for working people. And then, of course, if you just look at his overall approach to energy policy, he is putting climate ideology over bread and butter economics for the American people. He wants you to pay more for gas. He wants you to pay more for electricity, and he wants you to pay more for automobiles. Mark, most people don't want an electric vehicle, but most people can't afford an electric vehicle, and yet he wants to plunge us in that area. So it's been a frontal assault on the middle class, on working people, all in service of this really bankrupt left-wing ideology. And oh, by the way, a lot of these big city mayors and prosecutors deserve a lot of the blame for the crime, but Biden is right in there with them on wanting to put people back on the street. He supports eliminating cash bail. He supports all these Soros-funded prosecutors across the country. And incidentally, in Florida, we had two of them here, one in Tampa, one in Orlando. I removed both of them from their posts. They are gone because they put their ideology and their political agenda over their duty to enforce the law, and that put people in their jurisdictions at risk. And so we're not standing for that in the state of Florida. Biden wants to facilitate that all across this country.
In fact, you were sued when you fired that prosecutor, and you won in court the other day. So this is what I mean. Conservatives need to take risks. I don't mean reckless risks. They need to follow their principles and take them through action. And this is one of the things you've been doing as governor over and over and over again. It's not enough for conservatives to whine and complain and wring their hands. When we are in positions of power, we actually have to do things. And if people look at your experience and your success as governor, this is what it's about. It's, I promise this, these are my principles, I'm implementing it, and then we'll duke it out if we're sued. Let me ask you this. Why does Joe Biden hate the state of Israel? That's my view. And hate the prime minister of Israel? He never talks down the fascist fundamentalists that run Iran. He never talks about Xi in a negative way. I don't think he knows even how to spell Un's name over there at North Korea. But it's always a relentless war against the Israelis, the IDF, against Netanyahu. What's his problem?
He's a puppet to the far left in this country. He does not want to offend the far left. He's virtue signaling to them. You know, those pro-Hamas people at Columbia and Harvard, they're taking over the campus, they're taking over offices. That's Joe Biden's base. And so he's got to cater to them by attacking Israel. Those pro-Hamas people are anti-Semitic, they're anti-Israel, and that is what Joe Biden has reduced himself to virtue signal, being anti-Israel, all in the service of trying to scrape up votes amongst the far left fringes in this country. But what he's doing is not serving America's interests. Israel is the only ally in the Middle East that we can depend on through thick and thin. They're the only country in the Middle East that reflects Western values and American values. And they've been, and Benjamin Netanyahu in particular, has been a tremendous friend of the United States. So this is rooted in Biden's ideology and in his weakness as a leader, that he has to kowtow to some of the craziest mobs that this country has seen in quite some time.
Governor, one last question. Even the UN and Europe has condemned Iran for pushing out inspectors because Iran is really on the precipice of having a nuclear weapon. The Biden administration was lobbying France, Britain, and Germany not to rebuke them. They finally voted for it, but it was prolonged. Those countries wanted to do it in September. Iran's going to get a nuke on his watch, isn't it? Because he's not doing a damn thing to stop them.
This is just so bizarre, Mark, because this Obama was the same way. And that Obama nuclear deal was a total disaster. Donald Trump came in. He turned the screws on the Iranian regime, and that worked. The regime was on its heels. They didn't have any cash coming in. They couldn't do a weapon because they didn't have the wherewithal to do it. Biden comes out, floods them with cash. They're funding terrorism all across the Middle East. October 7th wouldn't have happened had we had a strong Iran policy. He is paving the way for Iran to get a nuclear weapon, and it's delusional policy, but it's doubly so given that his Democratic predecessor, when he was vice president, tried the same policy, and that policy totally flopped.
Well, Governor Ron DeSantis, I want to thank you for everything you've done in the state, everything you've done in the country, and my best to you and your family. God bless you, my friend.
Godspeed, Mark.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.